We got our new king rod bearings here. Cleaning the preservative stuff off to prepare for installation. And got to get our oil clearance spec. So step one is to clean these. Look for any damage. Make sure that everything looks okay, which it should. King bearings are pretty good, so I doubt we'll have any problems.
Can you point these parts out on your shirt?
No, they'd be in here. Alright, that's too clean. 6 to go. Really, these, honestly, it doesn't look like they've put anything on them, but still. Best to be certain. Don't want anything on the bearing to throw off your oil clearance number. No dust, no hair, nothing. Be extra certain that we're good on these because this is going to be the final installation. Once these go in the rods, they're in the rods. I'm not planning on taking them back out again, so.
What you cleaning now?
I clean the rest of this oil residue and staining off of this bearing surface. It's, well, I mean, you can't clean the staining up really, but the oil residue. Just got one clamshell here left to clean. I have to look at one of these bearings a little better. It looks like it might be might have some defects on it, so we will see. And I'm losing my paper towel. It is falling apart. This is the last one. I don't want to get a new one. That's good enough. Okay. Don't feel any problems there, so make sure we got no fuzzies, no dust in here anywhere. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So we will that in. There we go. One bearing installed. You just want to make sure that they are flat so that one side's not sticking up. There you go. That's one. 7 more. That looks pretty good. Let's check our bearing here. One of these or more may have a defect, so this one feels okay. May have some high spots, but I think it's just the coating, and if it does, it should wear in just fine. I mean, it's gonna have a oil film on it, so I think it will be okay. There we go.
Does this have to go in any special way?
The tangs have to go together. And as long as there's nothing underneath the bearing, no dust or anything, this one's pretty well clean. It's got some dust around here, but the bearing surfaces is clean, or are clean. So there you go. And you just want to make sure that it's not higher up on one side than the other, which that looks pretty good. So that's one rod's worth of bearings done. So I don't think you have to worry about touching the ARP 625s. I know that the L19s you're not supposed to touch directly, but that's pretty good. That feels pretty good. Nothing there. There's another one. Okay. And the caps always go tang to tang, which makes it easy to remember. But I also, back when I first did this engine, I had a little scribe, a little electronic scribe, and I put the numbers for the rods and the caps in on the sides of them, and they go together. So rod number 1, cap number 1, ones go together. I'll drop these. Okay. It sticks up a little bit more than I really prefer, but I guess it's okay. Okay. This last bearing I'm gonna have to look at a little closer. Focus. There you go. Come on. There we go. It's got some, you can kind of see there, it's got some spots on it that need addressed. Not completely flat. I think it's the coating. Yeah, it really comes up on the camera. All the other ones look pretty good, but this one needs some help. So yeah, we'll have to look at it and see what I can do. So we are going to clean these surfaces up the best we can, and like this 5-year-old packet of ARP Moly Lube here. Put some around underneath the heads of this bolts and on the threads. Probably this isn't like super necessary because we're not actually torquing these down. I mean, we are, but we're not. I'm going to put this back where it came from. We're actually going to be going about this with a bolt stretch gauge, but can't hurt to have some Moly Lube on there to help it tighten a little bit more consistently. Good for the threads and whatnot. So old school guys would just use motor oil, but you don't get the same torque value with motor oil that you get with Moly Lube, that you get with, you know, grease, that you get with anything you're going to use is going to be different. You're going to get a different result. So it's best to use what's recommended for the task, and in this case that is ARP Ultra Torque Assembly Lube. So we will lube these bolts up and put these clamshells together and tighten them down as we go. This is the top one. It has been a few years since I have done this job.
Good.
What do you mean good?
It probably isn't a good thing if you have to do this regularly.
Oh, that's
to
fair.
your own car. Other people's cars would be different, but your own.
Yeah, I haven't wrecked or ruined enough engines to have to do this much, so that's a good thing. This is the same packet of assembly lube that I've had since I bought these rods. And the other one I got from Larry Dixon. actually. He's got tons of them, as you do when you're a Top Fuel racer. You'd probably be interested to know that I'm putting another one of these together. He was into it when I did the first one. Thought it was pretty cool. That should be good. Okay. Yeah, hopefully our tolerances look okay. I'm not sure what I'll do about that other bearing that's got the surface mar. I mean, you know, it's probably fine, but I don't want to really risk it either, because what if it's not? Gonna be a lot of cash down the drain. So, but I know it's on rod number 4 on the cap, on the rod cap. So I know where it is when the time comes to inspect it a little closer. And I don't know, like, I wouldn't want to take sandpaper to it or a file, but maybe something a little softer just to that one specific spot to try to get those high spots down. And I remember when I built this engine originally, I had a bearing that had a imperfection like that on it as well, and I think we used a piece of emery, like, folded over, and just used the edge of it to just real slowly and carefully take that down. And it may have even had it may have even ended up as a low spot, which a low spot's okay, because a low spot just means oil, but a high spot, that's bad. Do not want a high spot. Yeah, maybe this packet or these 2 packets will get me through this engine build. We've gotten through most of this, and there's still a decent amount left in here, so. Might not have to buy any yet. Save where we can. This is an expensive, inexpensive hobby. That was graceful. Okay, last one. Plus, it's not like these bolts are going to be dry the next time I take them out. Most of this is still going to be on here, so we'll only have to add a little bit. Okay. that's that. So now, get my hands off here. These gloves are pretty nice, so there's no reason to get new ones just yet. Okay, so now we will draw these caps down by hand. I'm probably a lot more careful than I need to be, than most people would be, but I cannot afford to not be careful. So, careful we will be. Okay, that one's tight. 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 We'll have to back these off a little bit to do the stretch, but that's not a big deal. Right now we're just trying to draw the caps all the way down. Okay, I think we are there. So now we just crack those loose. Now for the fun part, we get to try out a new tool. I'm going to do this side first. So this is a bolt stretch gauge. I didn't think this through. So how this works, you might actually want to come over on this side. You'll be able to see it better over here.
Okay.
So we take this gauge, and there's a divot on the top of the rod bolt here, or bottom, depending on how you look at it, that this sits in. And so you put it on here like this. Make sure you're in that divot. Right? So then we zero this out with some difficulty. Alright, so right there. Right. So then, our stretch spec for this bolt. Oh, derp. Our stretch spec for this bolt is 6.5 to 7.5 thousandths. So each tick mark on here is half a thou. is a lot of torque to stretch it that far. I might not actually be able to do this with this wrench. We're at 0 there. Man, that feels like so much. I mean, it could just be this short wrench, but that's only 2/1000ths of stretch. It feels so wrong. That's right about 7/1000ths. 7/1000ths or 80 foot-pounds, but man, it's probably just a small wrench, but that sure feels like a whole 7/1000ths. But there you go. So that's one side done. And it's really a hair below, but I think I was a hair below when I started, so now take this out and flip around. Do the same thing on the other side.
You're gonna get your wrench on there first.
Yeah. Let me get my baseline set here. Actually, pretty well dead on. Hopefully we didn't just like super over torque it and it's because we didn't step torque them. I don't know how you would step torque something like this. Six. Right there. So that's our 7/1000ths and 7/1000ths, which I think we're a little off on the bottom. Take the wrench off. Yeah, so we're just shy. The spec is 6.5 to.
You can see your engraving better here than we could in the house.
We'll give it a little bit more. There we go. That's a little better. Well, maybe. Man, it just doesn't look like it's hardly moving. Maybe
Well, it keeps moving when you turn it, honey. See?
Yeah, I know. Ha! I bent my wrench. Well, I think we're about
6
there.
3/4.
Man, that feels like so much torque.
Clearly.
Doesn't
Let me
feel
see
like
that
no
again.
80 foot-pounds.
Let me see it again.
Well, if we just ruined it, we'll sell it all. Yeah, okay, well, that's that. Now that we've got this torqued, we are going to use a telescoping gauge to measure Okay, so now yeah, that feels pretty good. So now we'll measure this with looks like our 1 to 2 mic. Yeah, right about there. So we are at, let's see, need something to write down. Let me grab something to write with here. So rod number 1 is 1.7. It's not quite, so that'd be 1.75 plus 24 is 74. So 1.74. Or I'm sorry, that's 1.774. Get that in there. And our vernier says 5. So 1.7745. So now that we know that, I'm going to write that down again because it looks a little nicer here. 1.7745. So we take now our crankshaft spec, which should be block crank. So this was rod number 1, right? Yep, rod 1. So main or rod journal number 1. Where'd my pen go? There it is. Rod 1 is 1.7715. So 1.7715. Subtract is pretty obvious. 0.03 is our oil clearance spec for that rod, which is a little on the wide end, but that's honestly in spec still. We might have to run just a little bit thicker oil, but yeah, that's right where it should be. So cool. So there you go. Now you know how to clean a rod, install rod bearings, ruin a wrench, and yeah, measure our oil clearance. So I previously measured the crankshaft, so right now it's at the machine shop. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to untorque this with a torque wrench just because I want to make sure that we're really at 80 foot-pounds and not at 300. But I think we're probably okay. So there you go. Now I just got to do it 3 more times. Okay, I've got this down to a science now, I think. So since I wrecked a wrench, I was trying to figure out a better way to do this, and I think I've pretty well got it. So there we're at 0, right? Bolt's loose. So I know that these are supposed to be torqued to 80 foot-pounds. So I go to 80. We'll check it here. So we're at 5.5 thou stretch. We need a little more. Six. There we go, 7,000 stretch. And I didn't even have to break a wrench that time. So, now we'll flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I was hoping that these would be a little closer together, because if they both showed 0 on the stretch gauge with no torque on them, then I could step torque them, but they're just slightly different from each other. So see, this one's loose, so yeah, we're 0.02 off from the other one. So yeah, there we go. Otherwise I'd prefer to step torque these 20/60 or 20/40/60/80, but it's just not really feasible. And I don't think it's that big of a deal anyway. There's 80 foot-pounds. We got 5 3/4. And 6 1/4. Six and a half. Yeah, I went all the way to 7 1/2 that time, which is 7 1/2's okay. I'm going to back it off a little bit. Reset where I want it to be. We're still over 7. And that last thousandth a lot faster. That's a little nerve-wracking. Okay, so I'm just going to give it just a slight bump here. We're a hair over, but we'll go with that. 7 thousandths. Specs 6 1/2 to 7 1/2 thou. So there you go. That's a little faster way of doing it, since the wrenches don't seem to hold up to it. Now we'll go and measure our oil clearance. Okay, so it's a little looser than I want it to be. Still, oh, that's about right. Cool. Tighten that down. Double check it. Yeah. All right. I have to tighten that down extra well because I found that just my micrometer was squeezing it in a little bit. So it's too tight. Too tight. Right there. So we are at, let me get over here, rod number 4. It's really hard to write off center. We're at 1.774. And then we line up the vernier 4. So there's our actual journal size. So now we go back to my measurements, my crankshaft. So rod number 4, 1.7714. 0.7714. Now this is an easy one. We got 0.003. 3 thousandths is my oil clearance. So we're all fairly close. 3 thousandths, 2.7, well, 2,007 10 thousandths. That's really hard to say. And then 2.9 or 2.9, and then 30 again. So yeah, there we go. That's our oil clearances. That's a little loose, but still well within spec. I'm glad I went with the looser ones. So I don't want it to be too tight, and I think that this one here would have been under 2 thousandths, which is tighter than I want. These bearings are 1 thousandths extra oil clearance. So, and since I had a little scuffing on my bearings from my previous setup that were standard bearing size, I decided to go with a little looser oil clearance on these ones. So there you go. That's that whole part of the build done. Now I just got to loosen this up and put everything away. But yeah, so hopefully the engine block will be back from the machine shop presumably on Saturday. Today is Monday. If it gets here earlier, that's even better, because then I can balance my pistons and get them all to be right where they need to be. And the rod balancing is pretty much done. It was less than a gram off on big end weights between rods, so I didn't even bother. I mean, I could go all the way to 1/10 of a gram accuracy, but I mean, that's so tight. I feel like less than a gram is probably fine. And all the rods were right in line with each other on their weights. Yeah, so there's my overall rod weights. Pretty close. I had one that's a little heavier, but still well within specification, so I'm just gonna leave it. So yeah, once I get the pistons back and balanced, then I can assemble my pistons and rods, and then I can clean the block, check everything over, inspect my crank. It's supposed to be getting balanced as well with the block and the pistons at the machine shop. So once that's done, I can clean the crank, clean the oil passages out, make sure there's no crud in there that's going to scuff these bearings up. And then, yeah, from there it's going to be put the main bearings and the thrust bearings in and measure my oil tolerances for my mains and check my thrust in play. And yeah, once that's done, then I can bolt everything together, and that's a short block done. And I gotta gap the rings as well, but yeah, hopefully I'm hoping if we get the machine or if we get everything back from the machine shop before the weekend, I'm hoping that or even on the weekend, I'm hoping that the following weekend the short block assembly will be done. And then we just need a gasket set and timing stuff, and we can put the whole engine back together. So yeah, getting pretty close. That's not too bad. I mean, potentially we're 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away from having this whole engine assembled. So not too bad. I don't think it'll run this year as far as like having it out of the garage. It'll probably be running, but I don't think it'll be out of the garage. We'll wait until springtime. I've got some other big mods to try to do to the car while it's apart anyway, so just to kind of prep for the future. Some fuel system stuff. I haven't got the pump or anything ordered yet, so it's a ways off from being done, but this is a big step. So I'm really happy to see that my oil clearances are looking pretty okay, and yeah, just one step at a time. We'll get this thing done. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys for this time. But that's pretty good news. I'll try to remember to mention what I decided to do on this last bearing here. I'm going to try to get some opinions from some folks and see what people think, if it's even something to worry about. I feel like I probably should do something about it, but I'm not really sure what to do. So we'll get some opinions from some guys with some more experience than I have. See what they say. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have for you guys this time. So yeah, like and subscribe. It'd be nice if we could grow the channel a little bit. I know I don't post super often. Life's busy, but especially now that I've got some more projects to work on, I'd like to try to post videos more frequently. So You know, if you guys want to watch it, then I'll try to make the content. So, but yeah, that's all I've got for now. So yeah, see you guys next time.